Mother-in-law sold my late mother's jewelry at a garage sale because she said I had too much clutter. So I filed a police report for theft, and now my husband is threatening divorce unless I drop the charges to save her reputation. My husband James and I have been married for about 5 years now, and things have generally been okay. We have our issues like anyone else, but we usually work through them. The one constant source of friction, though, has been his mother, Barbara. Barbara is very particular about how things should look. She keeps her own house like a museum where you're afraid to sit on the furniture because you might leave a wrinkle. I never really minded it when we visited her because it's her house and she can do what she wants, but she has always made comments about our place. She'll come over for dinner and run a finger along the top of a picture frame to check for dust. Or she'll ask why we have so many books on the shelf when we could just use a Kindle and save the space. James usually just laughs it off and says, "That's just mom being mom." He grew up with it, so I guess he doesn't see how invasive it feels. I usually just bite my tongue because I don't want to start a fight over something small like dust or books. I try to keep the peace. I know family is important to James, and he's an only child, so he feels responsible for her. I get that. I really do try to be understanding about it. About 3 months ago, Barbara had a pipe burst in her condo. It was a pretty big mess. The water damage was extensive, and she had to move out while the contractors ripped up the floors and replaced the drywall. She called James in a panic. She was crying and saying she had nowhere to go because she couldn't stay in a hotel for weeks on end. It was too expensive, and she didn't want to be alone. James asked me if she could stay with us. He looked really stressed about it. I hesitated because I knew how she was, but I also didn't want to be the reason his mother was stranded or broke from hotel bills. So I said yes. I figured it would be temporary. The contractors said it would take maybe 6 weeks, which seemed manageable. I thought we could just grin and bear it for a month and a half. I told James we needed to set some ground rules, though. I wanted to make sure she understood that this was our house and we had our own way of doing things. James said of course and that he would talk to her. He told me later that he had the conversation and she was just so grateful to have a place to stay. I believed him. I thought maybe being a guest would make her dial back the criticism a little bit. Barbara moved in that weekend. She brought way more stuff than I expected for a temporary stay. She had suitcases and boxes of her essentials that she couldn't live without. We put her in the guest room. I tried to make her feel welcome. I cleared out some closet space and put fresh sheets on the bed. The first week wasn't terrible. I work as a radiographer, so I have long shifts at the hospital. I'm usually gone for 12 hours at a time, 3 or 4 days a week. James works in sales, so he's in and out of the house a lot or working from his home office. Since I was gone a lot, Barbara was alone in the house for long stretches. I think she got bored. She started helping around the house. At first, it was small things. I'd come home and the dishwasher would be unloaded, or the towels in the bathroom would be folded differently. I said thank you because it was helpful technically, but then it started getting more invasive. I came home one Tuesday and realized she had reorganized the pantry. She had thrown out a bunch of spices because she said they were expired or looked old. Some of them weren't expired. I had just bought them. I remember looking for the paprika and realizing it was gone. I asked her about it and she just waved her hand. She said I had too many duplicate jars and it was messy. She said a disorganized pantry is a sign of a disorganized mind. I felt annoyed, but I didn't want to blow up over paprika. I told James about it that night. He sighed and said she was just trying to be helpful and earn her keep. He said I should try to see the good intentions behind it. I told him it felt like she was judging me. He said I was being too sensitive. I started to wonder if maybe he was right. Maybe I was just stressed from work and taking it out on her. Then she started on the living room. I have a collection of ceramic figures that my grandmother gave me. They aren't worth money, but I like them. They sit on the mantle. One day I came home and they were gone. I panicked for a second. Then I found them in a box in the garage. I confronted Barbara immediately. I asked her why she moved my things. She looked at me like I was crazy. She said the mantle looked cluttered and that the figures were gathering dust. She said the room looked much more open, without all that knick-knack junk everywhere. I told her clearly that this was my house and she needed to stop touching my things. I told her that if she was bored, she could watch TV or read a book, but she was not allowed to rearrange my furniture or pack up my belongings. She got very quiet and teary-eyed. She said she was only trying to make the house look nice for us. She said she didn't realize I was so attached to Clutter. When James got home, she was in her room crying. He came to me and asked what happened. I told him. He said I needed to be gentler with her. He said she's old and set in her ways and she's just trying to help. He made me feel like the bad guy for yelling at an old lady who cleaned my mantle. I started to feel like a stranger in my own home. I would come home from work and do a scan of the rooms to see what had changed. It was stressful. I felt like I couldn't relax. Barbara started making comments about how much stuff I had in general. She would say things like, "Do you really need 5 winter coats?" Or "This junk drawer is a fire hazard." I ignored her. I just wanted her condo to be finished so she would leave. The 6 weeks turned into 8 weeks because of some issue with the flooring supply. I was counting down the days. I just kept my head down and tried to avoid her as much as possible. I spent a lot of time in our bedroom when I was home. Last Saturday, I had to work an extra shift. James was away on a golf trip with some clients for the weekend, so it was just Barbara at the house. I left at 6:00 a.m. I had a really bad feeling when I left. I don't know why, I just felt anxious. Maybe it was because I knew she had the whole weekend to herself in the house without James there to buffer. I got home around 4:00 p.m. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw that the garage door was open. There were a few card tables set up in the driveway, but they were mostly empty. Barbara was sitting in a lawn chair in the garage, counting a stack of cash. My stomach dropped. I got out of the car and walked up the driveway. I asked her what was going on. She smiled at me. She looked really pleased with herself. She said she decided to have a little garage sale. She said the neighborhood was having a community yard sale day, which I didn't even know about, and she thought it was the perfect opportunity to help me declutter. I looked at the tables. There were a few of my books left, a couple of old lamps from the basement, and then I saw the empty jewelry display stand. I have or had a wooden jewelry box that belonged to my mother. My mother passed away 4 years ago. The box wasn't fancy, but inside it were things that mattered to me. There was her silver locket. There were her vintage clip-on earrings from the 50s. There was a gold charm bracelet she wore every single day. And there was my grandmother's wedding ring, which was too small for me, but I kept it for sentimental reasons. I ran inside the house to the bedroom. The spot on the dresser where the box usually sat was empty. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I ran back out to the garage. I asked her where the wooden box was. I was shaking. Barbara looked at me and said, "Oh, that old thing. A nice lady bought the whole lot. She makes crafts. She said she could use the beads." I felt like I was going to throw up. I asked her who the lady was. Barbara said she didn't know, just some stranger who stopped by. I asked her how much she sold it for. Barbara looked proud. She said, "I got $40 for the whole box. Can you believe it? For that old costume junk." My mother's gold charm bracelet alone was worth way more than $40, not that I would ever sell it. The ring was real gold and diamond, but the value wasn't the point. It was my mother's. I started screaming. I couldn't help it. I screamed at her that she had no right to sell my things. I screamed that she had stolen from me. Barbara got defensive immediately. She stood up and said I was being hysterical. She said she was doing me a favor getting rid of that tacky clutter that was just gathering dust. She said, "You never wear it anyway. It just sits there taking up space. You should be thanking me for getting some money for it." I told her it was my dead mother's jewelry. She rolled her eyes. She actually rolled her eyes at me. She said, "Oh, please, it was just old trinkets. Don't be so dramatic. You have too much stuff as it is." I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless. The stuff was gone. Some stranger had walked away with the only things I had left of my mom. I pulled out my phone. I didn't call James. I called the police. I told the dispatcher that I wanted to report a theft. I said a large amount of jewelry had been stolen from my home. Barbara heard me on the phone. Her face went pale. She asked who I was talking to. I told her I was calling the police. She started freaking out. She said I couldn't call the police on family. She said it was a misunderstanding. I ignored her. I went to the end of the driveway and waited for the officer. I couldn't stand to be near her. When the police car pulled up, Barbara was crying in the garage. She had put on this act of being a frail, confused old woman. The officer was a young guy. He looked uncomfortable. I told him exactly what happened. I listed the items that were in the box. I told him the approximate value, which was definitely over $1,000 just for the gold, let alone the sentimental value. He went to talk to Barbara. She was sobbing. She told him she lived there and she thought she had permission to clean up. She said she didn't know it was real jewelry. The officer came back to me. He said that since she lived there, it was a bit complicated, but since she admitted to taking it and selling it without permission, it was theft. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. I didn't hesitate. I wanted it on record. I wanted her to face consequences for once in her life. He took my statement. He gave me a case number. He said they would try to see if any neighbors had cameras that might have seen the buyer's car, but the chances of recovering cash sale items from a garage sale were slim. While the officer was still there, James pulled up. He must have driven home early or something, or maybe Barbara called him. I don't know. He saw the police car and looked terrified. He jumped out of his truck and ran over. He asked what was happening. Barbara started wailing. She's trying to arrest me. She's sending me to jail. James looked at me. He looked at the officer. He asked me what was going on. I told him. I told him his mother sold my mom's jewelry box for $40. I told him I filed a report. James turned to the officer and said, "There's been a mistake. We don't want to press charges. This is a family matter." I interrupted him. I said, "No, it's not a mistake. I am pressing charges. She stole from me." The officer looked between us. He said that since I was the victim and the owner of the property, it was my decision, not James's. James grabbed my arm and pulled me aside. He was whispering furiously. He said, "Are you insane? You called the cops on my mom in front of the whole neighborhood." I pulled my arm away. I asked him if he heard what I said. I asked if he understood that my mother's things were gone forever. He said, "It's just stuff, honey. We can buy you new jewelry. You can't put my mother in jail over a mistake." I told him it wasn't a mistake, it was malicious. She knew I didn't want her touching my things and she did it anyway. James said I was overreacting. He said I was embarrassing him. He said I needed to tell the officer to leave and drop it. I refused. The officer finished his report. He gave me a card and told me a detective might follow up. Then he left. As soon as the cop car drove away, the explosion happened. Barbara was in the kitchen now, clutching a tissue and shaking. James was pacing back and forth. He started yelling at me. He said I had betrayed the family. He said I was cruel. He said, "How could you do that to an old woman? She didn't mean any harm. She was just trying to help you clean up this mess of a house." I looked around. My house isn't a mess. It's lived in. But he was parroting her words. I told him I was leaving. I couldn't stay in the house with her. I grabbed a bag and packed some clothes. James stood in the doorway of the bedroom. He told me that if I walked out, I was making a huge mistake. He said I needed to apologize to his mother. I laughed. I actually laughed because it was so absurd. I told him she owed me an apology and she owed me my mother's jewelry back. I went to stay at my friend Jennifer's house. Jennifer was horrified when I told her. She let me stay in her spare room. That was 2 days ago. Since then, my phone has been blowing up. James has been texting me nonstop. At first, he was angry. Then he tried to be sweet. He said he misses me and wants me to come home, but there's always a but. He says I can come home if I go to the police station and drop the charges. He says that Barbara is a wreck. He says she's terrified of getting a criminal record. He says it will ruin her reputation in the community. She's apparently on the board of some garden club and goes to church every Sunday, and she's worried people will find out. He told me that I'm being vindictive. He said, "Is a box of old jewelry really worth destroying my mother's life?" I texted him back and said, "Is your mother's ego really worth destroying our marriage?" He didn't reply to that for a few hours. Then he called me. I answered. He sounded cold. He told me that he spoke to a lawyer. He said that if I pursue this criminal case against his mother, he is going to file for divorce. He said he can't be married to someone who would try to send his mother to prison. He said I have to choose between revenge and him. I tried to explain to him that it's not about revenge. It's about the fact that she violated my home and took the most precious thing I own. I tried to explain that I don't trust her and I don't trust him to protect me from her. He just kept repeating that family comes first, and I broke that trust. He said I humiliated her. I asked him if he even cared about what I lost. He said, "I know you're sad about the jewelry, but it's gone. Punishing mom won't bring it back. You need to move on." I hung up on him. I've been sitting in Jennifer's guest room staring at the wall. I feel like I'm going crazy. Part of me wonders if I did overreact. Maybe calling the police was too much. Maybe I should have just screamed at her and kicked her out. But then I remember the look on her face in the garage. She wasn't sorry. She was smug. She thought she had done a good thing by getting rid of my junk. If I drop the charges, she wins. She learns that she can do whatever she wants to me and there are no consequences. And James learns that he can bully me into submission. But if I don't drop them, my marriage is over. I love James, or I thought I did. But looking at how he's handling this, I don't recognize him. He's more concerned about what the neighbors think of the police car than he is about my pain. He's more worried about his mother's garden club reputation than the fact that she robbed me. Barbara has been texting me too. She sent me a long message saying she forgives me for my outburst and hopes I find peace. She didn't apologize for selling the jewelry. She just said she hopes I learn to let go of material things. I wanted to throw my phone through the wall. The audacity of this woman is unbelievable. I called the detective this morning to ask if there were any updates. He said they haven't found the buyer yet. He said without a name or a license plate, it's basically impossible unless the person sees a flyer and comes forward. I made flyers. Jennifer helped me. We posted them all over the neighborhood. Stolen jewelry, sentimental value, no questions asked. I went by the house to put one on a telephone pole near our driveway. James came out. He ripped the flyer down. He told me I was making it worse. He said I was publicly shaming them. He looked so angry. I asked him why he was protecting her over me. He said, "She's my mother, you don't understand." I drove away. I'm back at Jennifer's now. I don't know what to do. If I drop the charges, I go back to a house where I have no respect and no boundaries. If I keep them, I lose my husband. I keep thinking about my mom's charm bracelet. She collected those charms over 30 years. There was a little Eiffel Tower from when she went to Paris, a baby shoe from when I was born. It's just gone, sold for pennies to a stranger who probably just wanted the beads. I feel sick. I haven't eaten properly in 2 days. I just keep replaying the moment I saw the empty spot on the dresser. James sent me a text an hour ago. It was a photo of a diamond necklace from a jewelry store website. The caption said, "I can buy you this. It's nicer than the old stuff. Please just come home and stop this madness." He doesn't get it. He really doesn't get it. It's not about the diamond. It's about the history. I haven't responded. I don't think I can. I think I know what I have to do, but it's terrifying. I'm 32 years old. I wanted to have kids with this man. I wanted to build a life. And now it's all blowing up because his mother decided my memories were clutter. I'm scared that if I divorce him, I'll lose everything. The house, the life we built. But if I stay, I lose myself. Update, so I've been reading through the comments and I feel a little less crazy now. A lot of you are saying that James's reaction is the bigger red flag than even Barbara's theft, and I think I'm starting to see that. It's hard when you're in the middle of it. You start to doubt your own reality. I also wanted to address the people asking about the clutter. I am not a hoarder. My house is normal. I have hobbies, I have books, I have things on the walls. Barbara is a minimalist to the extreme. To her, a coffee mug left on a coaster is filth. I just wanted to clarify that because I felt defensive about people thinking I was living in a dump. Anyway, something happened today that pushed me closer to a decision. I got a call from a woman who saw one of the flyers I put up at the grocery store nearby. She sounded hesitant. She asked if the jewelry box was wooden with a floral carving on the lid. I almost dropped the phone. I said yes. She said she bought it at a yard sale on Saturday. She said she felt bad because the price seemed too low for what was inside, but the older lady insisted it was just costume junk. I met her at a coffee shop an hour ago. Jennifer went with me for support. The woman brought the box. I opened it. The charm bracelet was there. The locket was there. But the ring, my grandmother's diamond wedding ring, was gone. I asked the woman about the ring. She looked confused. She said there was no ring in there, just the necklaces and the bracelet and the clip-ons. I know the ring was in there. I keep it in a small velvet pouch inside the box. The pouch was there, but it was empty. This means Barbara didn't just sell the box blindly. She went through it. She took the ring out before she sold the rest. She stole the ring specifically. The woman was really nice. She gave me the box back. I tried to give her the $40, but she refused. She said she has a daughter and she would be devastated if someone did this to her. I drove straight to the police station. I updated the report. I told the detective that the ring was missing from the recovered items. Then I called James. I told him I got the box back, but the ring was missing. I told him I knew his mother took it separately. James got quiet. He said, "Maybe you misplaced the ring before. Maybe it wasn't in the box." I hung up. He's still defending her. Even now, I'm not dropping the charges. In fact, I'm pressing harder. If she has that ring, I want it back. And I'm contacting a divorce lawyer tomorrow. It hurts. It hurts so much. But finding out she cherry-picked the most valuable item to keep or sell separately proves this wasn't just about clutter. It was theft, plain and simple. And James is an accomplice at this point. I'll update if anything else happens. Thanks for listening. It helps to write it out.